EFC PLUS program on creating your college list. EFC PLUS is a new innovative college net calculator that puts all the financial information in one place as you go through the financial aid process. And tonight we're going to talk about how to create your college list. This is a really good time for the junior parents as they start going through. Now you have a basis with your child's academic abilities through the majority of their junior year, plus their SAT score. So now you can see, what schools could look academically attractive, and what that reach will be at different schools. We're going to look at both the academic reach and the financial reach, which not many people look about or understand, but we're going to address that tonight. So just a little bit about me. What makes us unique is that I bring the personal financial planning expertise to the college funding decision. I cover the entire process from how to save for college all the way to student loan forgiveness. We've written a book called Financial Aid and Beyond, Secrets to College Affordability. And we've just developed the new EFC PLUS tool, and I've spoken at various national conferences across the country. As you go through this process, you'll see this is a extremely stressful and emotional time. This is your child. You've raised them for the last 17 or 18 years, and now they're trying to move on, become independent. The foundation of their future earning potential in life is all hinged on this, next decision. But also from a financial standpoint, what decisions you make could affect, their financial strength or abilities in the next, 15 to 20 years. So it's a very important decision. And one of the biggest issues we see in this is there's really a significant lack of financial literacy as you go through this process. And we're going to explain that. And then, the website and other webinars that we do, hopefully will explain or get you to be more financially in tune with what really happens. And that's a function of the cost has gotten so high over the last, say, 10 to 15 years. And if anything you understand as you go through this process is that the college is a business. I mean, it's operated like a business. It is big money, and you need to be aware of that. At times we overlook this as because it's such a social benefit, but it's similar to the medical field. Is that the hospitals and things, they charge significant monies at times for services, and at times this can happen on the education process, but they're all here for our well-being. And the biggest part I would tell you, as you go through this, a lot of people will get wrapped up in the admissions game. So you've already started that with maybe SAT prep courses, and maybe some of you've hired college coaches or counselors, which I think is a good idea at times because they can really help you in the process. It is a big decision, and so when you look at what you're going to spend to make the right decision, having some additional cost or finding the best fit could be really helpful when you get those insights from professionals. It's probably the few things when you look at the cost that everyone depends on the free resources, but the free resources are also the ones that are selling it to you. So it's kind of a unique situation in my eyes. So what you need to do is when you make this decision, I think there's three major categories as you work through the process and you create your list. One, I think you have to understand the academic strengths of your child, what the program or schools offer as that academic strength, the majors that they offer. I would recommend that you have 2 or 3 possible majors. I think that's an important part, to have flexibility in case one doesn't work out. You get into seeing it in more detail at the college level. You may not realize that that's the field for you. A good example is my daughter is a teacher. And at times, students don't realize that they're on stage all day until they experience that they're in the front of the class talking all day. It becomes much more important for them to see that or experience that so they can make that change. And then the campus environment, big school, small school, how far away from home, all that has to work. And then the last piece is what we specialize in, is the financial aid process. What's the best value for your money as you go through your numbers? How is that going to look? What's the best fit financially, and what's the financial outcome as you go through this process? I think the biggest thing is many of you will face now is many are starting to either start to visit some schools, or you are creating your list to maybe visit schools during the summer. As you sit through those admissions presentations, many of the schools will present something. They'll say you need to apply because we have plenty of financial aid. That may be true, but there's also a lot of people that they're telling that to. So this year we've seen another significant increase in applications. It just makes the playing field very, very competitive, and we have a tendency to simplify or generalize a lot of these terms, but they are telling that to everyone, so everyone feels they have a chance. A big part of that gets into the business aspect, and why it's said is by having more people apply, that increases their rankings and ratings at these different services. So, and it also allows them to have a more selective process. They can have, with more people, they can make better choices from their side. So just realize that as you'll see tonight, we're going to try to make you manage your list a little bit better, maybe cut 2 or 3 schools off. If you learn how to do that with our system and other information you can get either at your school or outside. As I said, this is, on the college side, though, let me just explain how that works. Think of this as you starting a new business every year. They're getting a new set of people in every year, and their objective is to have diversity and have a fit of the school to show what a business environment or a team would look like. So as an example, a lot of people get upset that my child's smart and should have gotten in and all that stuff. But think of it, if you were starting a business, you wouldn't hire all accountants and you wouldn't hire all salespeople. You wouldn't hire all just truck drivers or manufacturing people. You need to have a good mix, and that's basically what the schools are trying to do each year when they go through the selection process. So it's a mixture of the process and also what they're trying to do from a class demographic side. And then, as I said to you, you need to look at what the demographics and how you fit in financially, and that's an important part. They're trying to do both. At times when you hear this part of the conversation or the marketing pitch, all we hear is, we have plenty of financial aid, and then it becomes indirectly for me a lottery decision. I think the biggest change that's happened over the last few years is this involvement or this rising of enrollment management. It's been going on for probably about 15 to 20 years, and it's slowly evolved. And basically, you've heard the simplicity approach that they tell you at the admissions programs. And behind the scenes, they have very sophisticated modeling, the schools, to make the best choices. So their financial models work, their demographics work. All that's done in a very sophisticated manner. And we'll see an example of that in a few minutes. It's basically where enrollment management is where admissions and financial aid comes together at one place. So, admissions may make a decision that this child is a good fit for us and we should let them in, and financial aid saying this is what we can afford to give this child. Enrollment management puts that together and makes the decisions, or in many cases, the final decision of what a package is going to look like. There's also a new trend that I can say is, when we do presentations at different schools, everyone's asking what's the scholarships, where the scholarships are. Schools are moving more towards an average net revenue per student. So that combination of, some people will get more, some will get less. At the end of the day, they're trying to manage to an average net revenue per student as the children accept or the students accept their offers. So again, there's a lot of modeling that goes on to hopefully get that number right each year. So that's an important part. There's another great argument. Schools will say we're need blind. It doesn't exist. I don't think it does exist. And here's how that argument goes for me. Admissions people are the ones that do make the selection of who gets in. The problem is when they say you can get in or they're need blind, they make that decision. The problem is when it moves either to financial aid or enrollment management, they may not meet the need that you need from a financial standpoint. So the admissions are not lying. They are need blind. They are looking at the academics and can you get in. It's someone else out of the department that's saying, okay, how much can we afford to give each child? Again, they're managing to that average net revenue per student. So it does impact the selectivity of each school as you go through the process. So that's an important part. So they're not lying to you, and everyone talks about that. Admissions is letting everyone in because they're not looking at it, but when it moves up along the process, this is where that area comes into play. Waiting for a slide to come up here. So here's the next slide. The internet's a little slow here tonight. The admissions, many of you are familiar with the scattergram here. This is Navion's. Many of you are familiar with that. Many of you have that at your school. And the green dots are the people that have been accepted, and the X's are the people that did not get in. And you can see it's very diverse, and it could be for a variety of reasons. So we're looking at the GPA on the y-axis here, and we're looking at your SAT scores on the x-axis. As you can see, there's quite a difference. Now, what you don't see here is the subjectivity of some of this. So here we're wondering, why did this student get in? Well, again, we have a tendency to generalize things. This student could have been the all-star athlete or had some unique talent that the school really wanted. And then you see some really talented people don't get in for a variety of reasons. That's because maybe they didn't do well in their interviews, or there's something in their essay, or whatever it may be, or they didn't show interest. I mean, more and more schools are able to track the interest of a student by email, or did you do an on-site visit? The schools are starting to create much more sophisticated tools in managing who they want to have in that class. So that's another reason why to keep your list a little more manageable than in the past. With the Common App, more and more students are applying to more schools. One, that's expensive, but two, I don't think it will increase your chances due to the new sophistication the schools are using. So this is one part. We're going to move to the next slide, and that's going to show you something very different in the sense that here, this is what I'm talking about, what the schools are really doing. So this is on the y-axis, your admission strength. So this will be, your GPA, SATs, where the Navion's tool, or the scattergram, kind of just looks at it one way on the academic strengths. This goes into, okay, what is your subjectivity on, you're a captain of the team, or there's leadership qualities, or you did community service. You have much more movement on the admission possibility line on the y-axis, and this is the average SAT GPA score. So you can see, again, most people are familiar with the academic reach. In this case, the blue dot is where this student is at this school. They're above the academic positioning for this school. The x-axis here is the amount of need this student has. So here's where the average package for this school is about $16,000. This student needs, it looks like, about $19,000. So they have a little bit more need, but because they're above the average, the school may meet more of that number. So this is where we start seeing the combination of how the SATs have the admission process and the award process come together. And this is part of our new EFC PLUS program. Is this way you can manage this. So if you have schools that maybe you're down in these lower quadrants that you're hoping, and you're looking at what the school meets of need, and it looks attractive, but if you're down here and it's really going to be a stretch, you may not want to include those schools on your list. Again, this is part of the new process where schools are moving to this average net cost that you need to be aware of. As you go through the process, knowing your numbers are very important. The first number you need to know is what is your expected family contribution, or your EFC. The biggest misconception is that it's one number. When you go into most of the calculators out there, it is given as one number. We believe, and especially in our detailed analysis, it's actually 4 separate calculations, and you get 4 numbers, and you need to know those 4 numbers to make the right financial decisions. So there's, the methodology is broken up into parents' income, parents' assets, child's income, child's assets. Creates that sum of all 4, create what's called your EFC. On our website, you can sign up for our free EFC calculator. There's a roadmap on that site. So if you sign up for that, you'll get a link to the page that has that free EFC calculator. It's a very short version of that. You have the FAFSA forecaster, which is out there. You need to be careful about that program. Good, easy, quick answer. Problem is, if you're contributing to a 401k or an IRA, that number is not included, and that can really fluctuate someone's EFC. So just be careful there. Just want to give you a quick overview of how the numbers work as you go through and start creating your list. This is what our program does by showing what your cash flow and what your expected award would be at each of the schools. But I want to understand and show you a few things here. One, you see the EFC number there, the second line. the 25, this is, we're just going to be looking at federal schools. There's another methodology called the institutional methodology that you need to look at. But in this case, we're just going to look at a federal methodology school. Most important part is, one, this number is the same. So our EFC number at this school is $25,000 at both schools, right? Now, one is maybe a state school, $20,000. We don't qualify for any need-based aid at that school, but because we completed the FAFSA form, we will get that $5,500 as a Stafford, as a direct loan. Where on the other side, school 2, maybe that's a private school at $40,000, we have $15,000 worth of need, of which the school is going to come back and only give us 12. So we have a $3,000 gap. In addition, within that 12, you're going to probably have that $5,500. So it will not all be free money. So many people don't realize that. And there's a significant push for everyone to lower their EFC, so you're going to qualify for more. As you see here on the prior slide, we'll just go back here a second. At the prior 2 prior slides, sorry. We go back to the matrix. You can see where your ability to pay becomes a big deal. So the further, as you can see, the further this is your financial reach, as you get further along this line, no different than your academic reach, this becomes harder and harder for the schools to meet that amount of need and make it financially unattractive, maybe for the family as they go through this. But again, each family situation will be different. But this, again, goes through how much the school meets of need, how much of it's gift aid, and knowing where you are in the position will help you make a better decision. Again, this is from the planning standpoint. When you go through the process, you'll be trying to create your list as you go through it. You then get your award letters, and most of the seniors now are working through that process, going through their award letter. So here's where, again, we would get $15,000 of need. The school may only come back with an award letter of $12,000. Here's an example of what these numbers I should match up, but here's where this situation is. You can see how the numbers change also. What's also different is you can see we do a 4-year cash flow. The schools will only give you a 1-year award letter at a time. We think it's important that you know the net price or net cost on a projected basis at each school, because this may make one school, the private high-end school, much more of a value when you see the variance and differences in the numbers based on what that gifting policy is and all those other issues when you go through the numbers. So that's why it's very important to understand those type of numbers. So as we've looked at the financials. This is the academic, sorry, the affordability piece of that, and that's basically what the EFC PLUS system does. You now to start creating your list. You have your SAT scores in most cases. You know what your GPA is. So now you can start building that list. You're going to start looking at what schools you're going to visit, how you're going to visit that, okay? Understanding both your academic and financial reach in this case, especially if you use our tool, you can see how that's going to work, what the school meets of need, how kind they are in their gift policy. What most of the systems, if you go out to the schools, net price calculators, every school needs to have them. The quality of them will vary greatly. Again, that's the other great advantage to the EFC PLUS tool, in the sense you put in your financial information once, and then you just pick your schools and the numbers get generated. Where if you don't have this tool, you'll need to go out and input that same information every time. It's a different format. You need to find where it is. It can be very frustrating. So that's very, very important. You also have to look at it as a 4-year time. The net price calculators will only give you the numbers 1 year at a time. And then understanding how the schools are using social media, how your child's envisioned on or presented in social media, and also the interest factors. Schools are using much more sophisticated methods. So, you've heard of Constant Contact and these other products where they can see if you've opened up the email. A lot of times they'll send out surveys. Did you respond? So if you're in that borderline student and you're not, or even a safety school, if you're not showing interest, if you haven't done an on-site visit, those old world of oh, that's a safety school, the schools are actually able to track your interest in them, and they may not give you what you're expecting or acceptance. So that's an important part. And then actually keeping the number very manageable. I think that's more and more important. If you have a significant number of schools, it may make that interest level hard to manage as you go through the process. So as you go through your list, one of the first things you're going to do is start doing a college visits. What's important as you do the college visits, there's a few things I would highly recommend you look at. One, the weather and your tour guide will have a significant impression on both the student and what this campus looks like. So you need to take that with a grain of salt, depending on how the weather is and what's going to go on that day. Something most students don't do, or most families, is visit the career centers. As you'll see, we try to really get our clients to focus on the outcome of the education. By having a focus on the outcome, you need to understand where you're going. The career centers, if they're not sure what career they're going to follow, they can offer some testing services, some counseling services to help them decide. If they know kind of where they're going, they can help you, direct you into the internship programs and the co-ops. So that's a really important part for me, to understand what services, and should be one of the key factors in your decision process on what schools you want to do. A lot of times you will make visits during the summer, maybe you're on vacation or you're going to do a trip during vacation. If the school stays on your list, I highly recommend that you go back and visit the school while the student body is on campus. The school's feel and look can be very, very different from when you take a summer visit, because of just the population isn't there, to when the school's actually in session. How the kids dress, what they look like, can have a significant change from summer to, say, when the school's in session. A lot of times if you do an on-site visit, the schools will offer a free application. That can save you money. And then also, I tell you, if you're gonna go back and look at the schools, find out when the schools have their open houses to get a second look. That's when they will have their best foot forward. So there are a few things as you go through and you're starting to do your visits that you need to be looking out for. One of the last things you need to do is creating your college strategy, and what will make things affordable. So as we talked about earlier, understanding the details of your expected family contribution, your EFC, absolutely critical. Be very careful as you go through that. This is where breaking up the numbers, there's quite a few salespeople in the financial service area that you need to be careful about, that may try to present an annuity or life insurance product to you. Just be very careful about those situations, and many times they're not an appropriate solution, but are presented that way. As I would tell you also, really try to focus on the outcome. Have your child envision the outcome of their education. More and more careers are requiring postgraduate degrees. How do they look like, or what do they look like at 25? What is the career opportunity? What money are they going to be making? What's the growth potential? What education requirements are there to get to that job? As I said, my oldest is a speech pathologist. She needed her master's. You can't get a job and do that without your master's. Where my middle one is a school teacher, you don't need to have your master's to get a job as a teacher. So understanding those educational requirements and what the financial potential looks like, both from a quality of life and from a monetary standpoint. By just attending tonight, I hope this information has helped you become a more informed consumer. There's a series of webinars. We're actually in the midst of building up our website here, which will be a great resource for all people. Please pass the word. And then your whole goal here, and what we try to do is lower your out-of-pocket cost. And there's a series of other information and webinars we'll be having that will help you do that. Not just the financial aid, there's tax strategies, and there's 529 plans, and there's loan repayment options that you need to be considering as you go through this process. It is probably one of the most complicated and important decisions you'll make as a parent, and also from a personal financial standpoint. As I said to you earlier, what we try to do and what you should try to do is focus on the outcome of the education. Why are you going to this school? What is the expectations? A lot of times the schools will promote this as an experience. It can be a very expensive experience. This is where knowing what your outcome is. By the end of freshman year, in my eyes, they have to make a decision of what their career looks like, where they're headed. It may be not as specific as you'd like, but at least, I'm going to do business, or I'm going to do education, or I'm going to go into the sciences. Having that direction reduces the risk of extra year of cost by not graduating on time is very, very important in my eyes. We're just wrapping up here, so if there's any questions, there's our information. EFC Plus is the website, and again, we're trying to pull together the graduation rates and what all your dollars are. Just a few quick questions here. One is, can you explain the different loan options? The list is quite large. The most common is your Perkins, and also what's called the Stafford. It's now called the direct loan. Those rates will be established in sometime in May and go in effect July 1st. You have the Parent Plus loans. You also can use some alternative methods such as a home equity loan, and also maybe a private loan. You have to understand what your cost of money is, and there's different risks with each one of those as we go through that. Our software actually does that calculation. So as we said, we do a 4-year cash flow. It actually presents how much additional resources you'll need and your various loan options, and it also tells you what your loan repayment number will be at graduation, assuming graduating in 4 years. Someone's asking a question about what is financial reach. Financial reach is, everyone, I guess it's a new term. We're just starting to pull this out and explain it. It is a little word, somewhat new. Financial reach is the amount of money that you have from what the average package is to what you need. So as you think, remember the matrix, the further you are away from that line is what your financial reach is. You wouldn't be applying to schools that had an average SAT of say 1,400 and a GPA of 3.8, and your child's at 1,000 and has a GPA of 2.5. You just wouldn't apply. And the same can't, but you may be wasting your money if you're applying where the school's average package is $10,000 and you need 40 to go there. So you need to at least consider that in your decision making. Again, each situation is unique to itself, but again, this is what we're trying to do in this process is make sure that you're more informed. We have a tendency to just apply to schools hoping that we're going to get what we need, and we hear them say, oh, we have plenty of financial aid, but they're saying that to everyone. So just be very, very careful. This way, by having your number, seeing what your position is, hopefully you can manage your numbers. I think a good number of schools is probably in that 5 to 8 range is probably the optimal number as you go through that process. But the average net cost items there is really replacing, or average net revenue is the theory of scholarships. Everyone talks about I want scholarships. In reality, what you're looking for is what's the discount that I'm going to get. Again, very similar to the medical field as we look at it today, as what's going on is if you look at your bill, what you've been charged and what your insurance company is actually going to pay could be very, very different. So that's that. I think that's all we have as far as questions tonight, but I do appreciate you all dialing in and listening, and please come back and see the other programs, and as we build the library up on the videos, we really look forward to providing the best information to the public and hopefully help you make the best college decision. Thanks, and have a great night.